Thank you, Mr. President. I first want to thank Senator Leahy for his extraordinary leadership on this issue. I know that he serves on the Appropriations Committee that has brought us out this supplemental appropriation. He's also the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and I had the great privilege for a short period of time to serve on the Judiciary Committee, too short of a period of time, and saw his extraordinary leadership. And I know it was his committee that brought together an immigration reform bill that would have dealt with some of the major problems we have in our immigration system today. And through great work, we got that bill passed in the United States Senate over a year ago. And I find it somewhat just ironic that in the House, they're now talking about how they can change the immigration law. Well, we have a bill that's over there, pass our bill, and it would go a long way to helping this issue. So, I want to thank Senator Leahy for his leadership on immigration issues and his passion on the humanitarian issues we have before us. I join Senator Leahy, and I hope the majority of this membership in supporting the Emergency Supplemental Act. I hope we can pass it today. I hope our colleagues in the House will also pass this. I want to thank Senator Mikulski, my colleague from Maryland, for her leadership as chair of the Appropriations Committee in bringing forward a supplemental appropriation that really deals with the humanitarian crisis that's on our border. We all know about the unaccompanied children that are on our border. FY14, it equals 60,000. That's an extraordinary number. But let me make it clear. It's not because of border security issues that we have this problem. When these children approach our border, they wave and say, "We're here." You know, they're not trying to sneak into the United States. They're trying to get to our country. They turn themselves in. We know that most are coming from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, and we know the circumstances in those three Central American countries. First and foremost, the information they have about the transit and welcome in America is different than reality. The reality is that if children are transited to our border, they're very likely to be at great risk. Great risk because of the traffickers who could very well abuse them, certainly are giving very costly transit, giving them information that's just not accurate about the laws of our country. If they make it to our border, what happens is that they are put in deportation. There's no a right to enter America. We have to evaluate their circumstance. That's how we do our immigration laws. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that the people of Honduras and El Salvador and Guatemala understand the risk factors, and their children should remain in their country. But the root cause, as Senator Leahy pointed out, is also that the current circumstances in these three Central American countries. It's not safe. Too many young people have a choice to either join a gang of violence or themselves be victimized by violence. The economic circumstances in these three countries give little hope for an economic future for these children. And it's in our interest to partner with all three of these countries to deal with the root causes of why parents would put their children in transit to our borders at great risk, or why families would try to come to America and leave their native country. So it's in our interest to deal with that. And the supplemental appropriation bill that is now on the floor provides $300 million of help that we can use to deal with the root causes in the Central American countries. We can make a difference. Now, let me just give the dollars for 1 second. $300 million might seem like a lot of money, but it's not the billions that we need to take care of the problems that are on our border as a result of families sending their children to our border. We can make a difference. Our development assistance programs work. They work. It's part of our national security. We understand that if we can have stable countries, it provides a more stable relationship, strategic partnership with us and other countries, helping our national security interests. And we can make a difference. Let me just remind my colleagues that under President Reagan, in a bipartisan manner in 2003, we passed the PEPFAR law, which dealt with the HIV/AIDS, because we recognized that the world was being jeopardized, the security of the world was being jeopardized by the spread of HIV/AIDS. And guess what? Our PEPFAR initiative made a huge consequential difference. Today, the landscape is totally different than it was just a decade ago. That's because we, the United States, showed leadership. We can show the same kind of leadership in dealing with the root problems in Central America today that can make our hemisphere safer, and by the way, help children with a future that can help their country and help the global economy. We have programs in these countries. We have the Partnership for Growth, for one example, in El Salvador. But we gotta really make it consequential. We gotta make it consequential to get rid of these gangs, to give economic hope, to deal with good governance. And the first step is in this supplemental appropriation that provides that $300 million of help to these countries. These children at our border require a humanitarian response from the United States. Mr. President, I had the honor of chairing the U.S. Helsinki Commission. It's known for many things. It's known for its standing up for human rights globally. And we have talked about America asking the international community to have open borders when there are instability in their community. The most recently, the problems in Syria. Well, we thank the people of Turkey, the people of Jordan, for having open borders so people can find safe havens. Well, we better take care of our issues at home first. We have humanitarian responsibilities, and this supplemental appropriation takes care of that. $1.2 billion to Health and Human Services to deal with adequate shelter for these children so they're properly cared for. That's our responsibility. They have certain rights. The majority will be returned to their host country in a safe manner. But there are many that are entitled to asylum. There are many who've been victimized by the traffickers and are in fear of their life. And there's no safe option and have a right to expect our country to reach out in a humanitarian way to take care of their needs. So this supplemental takes care of that with monies for HHS, monies for the Department of Justice, $124 million to deal with the judges so we can handle these issues in a prompt manner, to deal with adequate legal representation. As I mentioned in the beginning of my comments, yes, we have to improve our immigration laws. We've already done it. The bill's in the Senate, it's in the House. All they have to do is take up our bill, pass it in a balanced way, representing not only the philosophical views of the Congress, which can be a challenge at times, but representing the views of most Americans. So I hope that we will support the supplemental bill. I might also add it provides $615 million for wildfires in the West. We know that's an urgent situation that needs to be dealt with. It provides help to our ally and friend Israel, $225 million to replenish the missiles that have been used in Iron Dome to shoot down the missiles that are coming into Israel. It's a well-balanced supplemental. It represents, I think, the best interests of this country, and I would urge my colleagues to support it promptly. With that, Mr. President, I have 7 unanimous consent requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have been approved by the majority and minority leaders. I ask unanimous consent that these requests be agreed to and that these requests be printed in the record.
Without objection.
And, Mr. President, I would suggest the absence of quorum.